What's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. Yesterday was the deadline to place a franchise tag, and we saw 6 of them placed in the NFL. Ravens gave the non-exclusive tag to Lamar Jackson. Giants tagged Saquon Barkley. Cowboys tagged Tony Pollard. Raiders tagged Josh Jacobs. The Jaguars tagged Evan Ingram, and the Commanders tagged Daron Payne. Now back to Lamar Jackson. He was tagged with the non-exclusive franchise tag, which means he can now negotiate a contract with other teams. If he signs an offer sheet from one of those teams, Baltimore has the right to match or refuse. If they refuse, they receive 2 first-round picks as compensation. A deal was done yesterday with one quarterback. The New York Giants signed quarterback Daniel Jones to a 4-year deal worth $160 million. Like I said, they placed their franchise tag on Saquon Barkley. Beat the buzzer on that one, too. Speaking of beating the buzzer, tonight, SEC basketball tournament begins. You start with Ole Miss and South Carolina at 6 o'clock. And LSU Georgia will follow that. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
All right, let's have some fun. Much to discuss, as the NFL's franchise tag deadline day was very interesting right up until the final moments of that 3 p.m. Central Time deadline. Welcome in, by the way. Lucas Panzica with you, Robert Walsh, our producer, and Keith Bulluck hanging out with us on 104.5 The Zone until 1 o'clock. What's up, KB?
Chilling, man. I got some big shoes to fill. And for Buck?
Well, Buck, I don't know. He's on a mountain somewhere running over kids in Breckenridge trying to ski.
Oh, okay. He's a skier or snowboarder?
He's a skier, I think. I don't know how good of a skier. He says he's competent, but I don't know. I can't really picture it.
If he says he can get up and down the hill, I feel like competent meaning by his standards, he can get up, down the hill very safely. I don't know how gracefully, but safely for sure.
Yeah, safely is the issue for me when I'm skiing. I can get up and down the hill, but it's not going to be safe for me or anybody around me. So I try to stay away. Are you a big skier?
Nah, I snowboard. I got into it when I retired. Been doing it for about almost like 10 years now. I didn't do any this season. I normally go a few times a year, but I got to change my style because I'm goofy foot, meaning anyway, you got it. Right, for sure. But that's my ACL. That's the knee I had ACL surgery on. And last year, me and my friend, we were in Aspen, and we went hard for like 3 days because we'll go out at 9:30 in the morning, take a break at like noon, and then, go till like 3. And we went 3 days in a row and we skipped the 4th, and, I was feeling fine, but that night of the 3rd night or the 4th night, thank God we didn't go. It felt like I, needed surgery on my knee again, just the pounding that I took on it. So I gotta, get back up there and change my style. I'm not looking forward to it. So I took the year off.
Bert, you're not a big skier, are you?
Of course not. That's for the fancy people. That's for the high society. I am also a snowboarder because I feel like that's what the cool, rugged guys do.
Okay. You any good at it?
No, not at all. Look at me. I'm shaped like a snowman. Like, the only way I'm going down the mountain fast is if I'm rolling down it.
I grew up skateboarding, so it kind of came easy to me. So.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty natural transition. I don't know how natural of a transition this will be or how it'll be for Lamar playing for whatever team he plays for in 2023. But Lamar Jackson gets the non-exclusive franchise tag yesterday, which will pay him $32 million this coming year. The exclusive tag would have been a $45 million price tag. So Lamar Jackson, as you've probably heard explained by now, can engage in contract talks with other teams. If he signs an offer sheet with another team, Baltimore can match that offer to keep him or let him walk and take 2 first-round picks as compensation. So how much of a risk do you see this as for the Baltimore Ravens? Are they playing chicken to you here, or are they just letting the rest of the NFL do the legwork of all these contract talks and just seeing how it shakes out?
I think at this point, they're allowing. It's almost like allowing Lamar to test the market. You know what I mean? Because they gave him the exclusive would have been like, okay, boom, we got you. We're gonna give you, and that might have been right around what every quarterback is getting, about 45 million, right? I think this one is allowing, whatever the talks are going on behind closed doors. This one is allowing the Ravens organization, allowing Lamar to see what his actual value is. What other teams will offer for him. And if somebody comes with that number that he's looking for, okay, cool, kid, you can have it. You can go about your business. Or they'll come in and match. When that's what the playing chicken part is. You know what I'm saying? But I guess my question is, if they match, does Lamar have to sign with them?
If the Ravens match, yeah. So the Ravens basically have the opportunity.
So they have his rights.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Right, Robert? If the Ravens match, then Lamar Jackson is a Baltimore Raven.
The way I understand it, say a team offers him a contract that's constructed, say it's heavy in the first year, light in the second year, whatever contract he agrees to, and if the Ravens match it, it has to be that exact contract.
Right.
But they can match any contract and if they choose to.
And just keep him a Raven.
Correct, yep.
But they don't have to.
No.
Okay.
If the Ravens choose not to match, Lamar walks, and the Ravens get 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, I think that they are playing chicken in a way with themselves as well. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if a team is willing to give Lamar over $30 million and meet him closer to his number, I think that the Ravens are putting their franchise. They're setting their franchise back a few years, because you saw what happened. When Lamar got hurt, and I don't even know how hurt he was. I commend him for playing as long as he did, going through the whole preseason, playing in preseason games, going out there, giving it his all. What did he get them to 7-2 or something like that? He had them sitting high in their division, and
it went downhill
fast. And you saw what happened when he's not out there. And, you can't help but every time you watch SportsCenter or one of these sports shows and they're talking about the Ravens and Lamar and you're showing his highlights, he's electrifying. He is worth the price of admission on Sundays. And, Titans fans have seen what he's done and seen, Titans play great against him and seeing him play great against the Titans. So we know what type of a player that he is. And there aren't that many players out there in the NFL, and there are definitely at the quarterback position, and there definitely aren't any quarterbacks in this draft like Lamar Jackson. So I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Praise is pouring in on the chat. Danny saying KB in the building, Bert in the control room. Roger says, can I just say this would be a much better show times 10. Roger, I think I would tend to agree with that. AJ
crazy,
says, I think it's brilliant. They get to pay him whatever anyone else offers, the Ravens that is, or they get 2 first-round picks, no lose. But no lose, I maybe would disagree with that because you said, there's compensation there. But how much are you setting yourself back as a contender right now if Lamar Jackson's not playing for this football team next year?
Look, Lamar puts you as one of the best teams in the NFL. You just got Roquan Smith, who's running around hitting everything that moves.
And just got his big deal.
Exactly. So your defense is there. Your defense is ready. So now you saw what Huntley is going to do. Look, man.
That's a Pro Bowl quarterback you're talking about there,
That's
KB.
terrible. That's terrible, bro. The Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl, and no disrespect, whoever's made the Pro Bowl since 2010.
Is that the cutoff?
Yeah, you might want to check your credentials. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's kind of gone down. But that doesn't mean they aren't good, great players, but it's just since it left Hawaii, it's been a different game.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Yeah. Now they're playing flag football in Vegas. If you didn't know, KB, Robert Walsh is a big Ravens fan.
Okay, nice.
And we give him a lot for it, but we'll just be periodically checking in with wellness checks.
How long have you been, what year did you become a Ravens fan?
I was a high school wrestler. My dad wrestled in college, so I was always watching like Ray Lewis hype videos. He used to have these cool speeches, and I would watch them before games or matches. And then the first Ravens game I actually watched was, I think, the 2011 home opener against the Steelers. They beat the Steelers 35-7. They made Big Ben turn the ball over 7 times. Ray Lewis, Haloti Ngata, Terrell Suggs, they just beat the hell out of him. And ever since then, I was a Ravens fan.
Hey, look, I can't be mad at that. That's good football to watch. That's good football to grow up on. I was out of the league by 2000. Ray Lewis was still playing. You know what? If I played till about 2013 or so, I needed a few more years. We might be having different conversations, but I think, that is a great, organization. Like Ozzie Newsome has done a really, really good job with the way he's been able to turn over and find guys and just kind of keep that organization going. And, whatever.
So how are we starting?
Whatever.
How are we starting the day, Robert?
Honestly, I'm filled with more optimism that Lamar will be a Baltimore Raven than I have in the last year and a half. I've expected for him to just leave, and it's kind of like you break up with a girl, you don't talk to her for a couple days, but then it's the weekend, it's like 1 o'clock on a Saturday, and she's like, hey, you up? Hey, big head. And that's what I'm getting from Lamar right now. I feel like the Ravens are getting, hey, you up, big head, Lamar texts. So I feel like it could go good. They could get him back. We could be what we once were. I'm feeling rejuvenated right now.
Optimism.
We'll see how those feelings
I don't think
change.
Lamar. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think it's more likely Aaron Rodgers isn't a Packer than Lamar Jackson isn't a Raven.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, like you're saying, more likely Lamar Jackson returns to Baltimore than Aaron Rodgers returning to Green Bay.
Yeah,
I would 100% agree with that.
If the Packers do move off Aaron Rodgers, are they then interested in Lamar Jackson?
No, I don't think so.
Nah, because look, if you think about the Green Bay Packers, they have the formula for a Super Bowl about every 10 to 12 years, right? So Brett Favre, did he win 1 or 2? Maybe he won 2.
Just the one, right? Brett
All
Favre.
right. Brett Favre won 1. He had to sit. He had his trials and tribulations in Atlanta. Then he won in Green Bay. They drafted Aaron Rodgers 2nd round. Aaron Rodgers had to sit. All right, now he gets in. He's a seasoned quarterback. And he's the Aaron Rodgers we know now. But Jordan Love has been having to sit and learn. And
the way those cycles have continued to mirror each other is insane.
You see what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. Jordan Love sitting back, watching, whatever, and we don't know the relationship that he and Aaron Rodgers has. No one spoke about it. He hasn't spoke about it. Aaron Rodgers hasn't spoke about it. Regardless the relationship, it's a working relationship, and he's the backup. He's the co-pilot, so to speak, in the quarterback room. So your job is just to sit there, be quiet, speak when spoken to, and take it all in. And this kid was drafted in the 1st round for a reason. So to sit in the quarterback room with, a future Hall of Famer and Aaron Rodgers, say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, he's got skills. And, we've yet to see what Jordan Love can do. So I think Green Bay is sitting all right if Aaron Rodgers don't come back.
So Ron Slay set to join us in studio or on the phone. I have no idea. I asked him and he hit me back with the thinking emojis. So I never know with Slay. He keeps us on our toes. We're going to come back to all of this. We'll circle back to Lamar Jackson, the teams that have declared they are out on Lamar, and what all of that might mean. But first, let's preview the SEC tournament with SEC Network star and 3HL's own Ron Slay on 104.5 The Zone. Getting a little bit of March Madness in the NFL this week. But it is March on the hardwood, and SEC tournament play starts tonight. Ole Miss and South Carolina will tip things off at Bridgestone Arena, 6 p.m. Central tonight, followed by LSU in Georgia. Of course, the winner between Ole Miss and South Carolina will play Tennessee in the second round. Good morning. Lucas Panzica hanging out with Keith Bulluck, Robert Walsh, our producer on 104.5 The Zone. Ron Slay is somewhere. He'll probably come kicking this door down any second now to preview the SEC tournament before he'll be, and there he is.
What Bully doing in my seat?
Oh, Bully's in your seat.
Yo, ain't no Lucas could have told me. You want me to get out?
Is that on me or is that?
Real one? No, that just mean I got to relocate.
Okay, I appreciate you. I was like, dang.
Calling me, Bert.
You gonna do me like that on the radio? I normally do, but I don't know.
You can't see the TV or nothing right now.
Ain't nothing on yet.
Is this uncomfortable for you, Slay, sitting right
I
there?
ain't never sat over here. I don't
You've
know.
never sat over there?
I don't know. It got a little condom already on here and everything.
You got to adjust the seat, Eddie? That's where, Kayla's there.
Y'all
Bab's
just
there.
raw over here. Y'all go raw. Y'all don't put the thing on, huh?
I keep mine with me, bud.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got your own.
You keep in his
Y'all
wallet.
y'all got me raw up
Sometimes
here.
it'll fall out at a restaurant. It's pretty embarrassing, and you got to pick it up.
I usually keep mine in my wallet, and it just falls apart, man.
In your wallet.
Yeah, that's where isn't that where you keep your condoms at?
The little foam, the mic foam.
Yeah, I guess, that's what we're going
Let's
with.
have some
called a sock.
clarity.
Isn't that-
Yeah.
You walking around with some green Nutri-Green crackers?
Hey, no, dog. Do you know how good these are? So I've been traveling, and I forgot how good Biscoff cookies are.
Okay,
Oh, my
cool.
God. So that's like what you'll get on like a Delta flight, right?
I thought you were on a diet.
America, I am.
And you can eat
this.
Biscoff?
No, so guess what? This is
I'm with you.
keto, no GMO, vegan cookies.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I was like, wow.
Hey, I don't even know what that is.
I don't either, but I had to know. So I had to do all my research, man. I was on American. I was like, dog, we used to fly American when I was at UT.
Yeah.
That was our charter flight. And I used to get them to always give me the roll. And, dog, when I started getting back on them flights, 'cause I've been flying Southwest, you know what I'm saying? Get straight
Yeah,
to it.
the Southwest snacks
Theirs
just
ain't really.
They give you the little thing, the little crossover
Yeah.
Chex Mix and
This-
Cheez It thing.
This
No.
a different. So I ordered them last night on Amazon. I was
Yeah,
like,
Amazon got it all.
That's
I'm gonna
the
put them right over there in that lunchbox. So you want one, you know what I mean? Just go and get you
All right,
one.
now I normally sit. Next time I'm not gonna sit here again.
No, hey, Bully,
You was
sit where
cool.
wanna sit.
You was cool, but like you kind of like big cousin me. Like, dang, Bully, what you doing in my seat?
Bully, they're trying on my shoes. He come over, spend the
Hey,
night,
you know
he got
what?
my
I
hats
didn't know.
on.
I forgot you was coming. I had forgot.
no, but the Slay
You
doesn't
gotta
tell
do
us when
better.
he's coming.
That's
So
true.
some of that's on Slay.
Yeah, Pan keep on hitting me, asking me, you coming in? You calling? You coming out?
You keep us on our toes with
That's
that.
right.
You gave him this emoji with the hands in the
I gave
air.
him right there. I gave him the little chin rub emoji. like I'm thinking about it.
I could eat 40 of those Biscoff cookies right now. I'm on a Delta flight, and I'll ask for more, and then the flight attendant, like,
Show us, man.
oh, baby, that's what we're talking about.
Sure, they
Oh,
gonna
these
be
are
in the-
little bitty ones.
Yeah, they're gonna be in the lunchbox.
Oh, then double. I could eat 80 of these in one sitting. These are so good. I'm not going to eat into a microphone and do that to people. All right, so
See, I would.
we got to help KB fill out it. We need to normalize filling out tournament brackets. Why do we do it for the NCAA tournament, but not conference tournament?
That's a good question.
Because I think this SEC tournament
gonna be-
might have as much madness as any tournament in March this year.
It is, man. Anybody can win it.
So-
Anybody can win it.
Keith Bulluck has got a bracket sitting in front of him. I've already filled mine out, Slay.
Right.
I've got one here for you if you want it. And Robert's got one back there. I mean, I've filled mine out. Keith has not filled his out. So maybe we walk through these and see how we need to approach it. I don't know. Is this unethical
mean, I
for
got-
you?
I
Since
got
you're gonna
all
be
the
talking
way-
about it on a desk?
I'm all the way to the quarterfinals. I got myself to the final four. You know what I'm saying? I definitely got myself to the final four.
You ain't made it past that.
Yeah, just because I just haven't.
Now, the only thing about this, though, this right here, see, this. So my winner is gonna be wrong.
Why you say that?
Yeah,
Because I mean, I'm gonna start analyzing too much. I'm gonna start breaking down the teams, like the matchups. I'm gonna get too in depth. And in tournaments, period, the more in depth you get, the worse your bracket is gonna look. To me, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know too much information.
So
I'm too smart. I'm so smart. I'm dumb in this situation.
NCAA tournament.
So just give us the layman's, the dummy, the SEC bracket for dummies, because that's where I'm at with it.
The SEC bracket for dummies.
That's where I'm at with it, baby.
I would say if just to make it simple, I think it's 3 teams that can win it. Of course, Alabama because of the talent. Texas A&M and Tennessee. If I just went dummy, I think that it's always something.
You don't like Kentucky?
The reason I don't is because in back-to-back games, they only play 5 guys. Really. You know what I'm saying? And these guys been playing 36, 38 minutes. At some point, and then what? This is my thing. What if somebody get in foul trouble? You got to go to your bench.
Not enough depth. In tournament time, you got to have depth.
That's all I'm saying. And guards win tournaments.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a big man. So if Casey Wallace, who's been playing phenomenal for Kentucky, get in foul trouble, you ain't got Wheeler coming off the bench. You got to move Reeves to the point guard spot, who's been killing at the 2 guard spot. So you take something from him. It's just different, dog. It's different. I don't know. And that's my only thing about Tennessee. That's why I think, honestly, A&M or Alabama.
Who do you think is going to step up for the Vols since Ziegler went down? And who, since he went down, have you seen step up, or have you expected to step up and has not stepped up enough?
Who's going to be the Josh Richardson of this year's run, Slay? Remember Josh Richardson when he just woke up as a true freshman that was 13, 14
Who got
season
that
in
killer?
March?
Who wants to be a PT peer for those who too young, prime time player?
So I think what's going to have to happen, if you're looking at a guard to try to shoulder that load and carry your team, it's going to have to be Josiah. It's going to have to be Josiah Jordan James. Reason being, because he is a Swiss Army knife. He's been there before. He knows what this tournament atmosphere is like. He's won it, been in pressure situations. He's a senior. He's played the point guard spot before. He is playing better offensively since coming back in that South Carolina game, like no hesitation to shoot, going to get his buckets, finding little creaks in the offense to steal buckets. He's going to be big. To counter losing Zakai, I think the bigs have to dominate the paint. I think the 4 bigs have to dominate the paint. They don't necessarily have to do it with scoring. They got to rebound every ball. You got to give your guys second shots. You got to get second chance rebounds. If you can do that, and you got to patrol the paint. You know what I'm saying? You ain't really necessarily got to be a rim protector, but you got to be a paint protector. When they come in there, they got to see you and be like, let's kick it out.
Show presence.
You know what I'm saying? At all times, because what made Zakai always good, too, is when, not his man, but if I'm going pan right here and you penetrate right here to the right of me, I'm able to stick my hand in there and get a swipe.
You can do cover 2.
You feel what I'm saying?
2 for 1.
Yeah. So now to take that gap that you able to drive in, it got to be a big standing right there already in that gap to disturb you or discourage you from driving right there. So that's my thing. The bigs got to step up. I can't put it on a guard because I don't think a guard can defensively bring what he brought consistently 94 feet. But in a packed half-court defense, I do think they can fill in for him. But, man, you got to think, man, the things that guy was doing, he would tire your guard out by the time the second half came. Because he pressuring, because he got to keep his head on the swivel. He don't know where he is. You can't be looking back at your coach trying to get the play because he's going to take it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So all those little things, I don't think you can substitute
Those are the little
for.
intangibles that he brought.
Yeah, man, that you don't see and they don't show up in the stat sheet and stuff like that.
Well, but sometimes they do, Slate, because Wendell Green made 2 field goals in the first matchup for Auburn in Knoxville. Wendell Green torched the Vols on Saturday.
Yeah, he did because he was comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't got a guy small. That's another small guard. And he ain't got a guard smaller than him getting up in him with strength to be able to cut him off. And then you got to feel body and bounce. That's different. You know, you get your shoulders square and get by a guy, you gone. And that's what Wendell Green was doing on those switches. So, and that's another thing. Zakai can fight over screens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't necessarily have to switch. So
in your mind, Tennessee's missing Zakai more on the defensive end than offensive.
yeah, without question. I think offensively they're going to be fine. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a body movement, ball movement type offense, and it goes with feel more than, hey, man, we're going to designate this. Let's get it to Bully right here. Okay, now let's get paying the ball coming up. It ain't really their offense because you don't need a guy up there sitting like Magic pointing. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can not anybody can run it, but a guy that's been in the system, that's why I say Josiah can do it. He can run that. But, man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But I think Josiah has it. I think he has it, man. He done came back, and you can tell when the guy's been hurt what he's been working on. Josiah was working on his shooting while he was hurting. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Who's a sleeper? Like, who's a sleeper? And then also, man, I was watching SEC ball a couple weeks ago, and there was this kid. Oh man, he was on either Arkansas, South Carolina, number 1. He's maybe a 3.
Ricky Council for Arkansas.
Oh yeah,
the little baby dreads. Yeah,
he goes. He goes.
I like Machine.
Like he's a baller.
Oh,
his team isn't like they all right, but he could get it anytime he wants to. So yeah, who's a sleeper as a team, and who's like some players in this tournament you're excited to see that someone that doesn't watch SEC hoops that often should look for.
See, I like when Bullet be showing me he been watching the games. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I check it out, man. I'm trying to catch my guy. You feel me?
I know on it. That's honestly so Arkansas I think is a good one. I think that's a good sleeper. Because of what you said about a guy like Ricky Council who can go get it. Probably the best transfer that came in this year in the SEC, like dominated, led them in scoring, second in the league in scoring. The only problem is you got a guy opposite of him that's exactly the same in Nick Smith, the freshman. He do the exact same thing. He go get her too. So how do you disperse that to get the balls going, to get everybody else involved? But Arkansas sleeper, but my other sleeper, man, Missouri. Even though they're a 4 seed, they got the double bye. Missouri tough, man. They got guys 6'5", from 6'5", excluding the point guard. They got guys from 6'5" to 6'8" that play every position, every single position, and they got it all the way to the 8th man coming off the bench. Like Missouri, man, they got depth, and all of them can shoot, pass, and dribble.
Nice,
without question. Even they 7-footer, Diarra, like they all problem. And if they get hot. Woo! Go on, Council Christmas, because they're going to let it fly. They're going to let it fly. That's one thing I can say, man. Dennis Gates, who I picked as Coach of the Year.
I was going to say, did you have a gripe with that he's not? I mean, it's hard to not give Buzz Williams and Jerry Stackhouse some love for that. But Dennis Gates, man, what he did, the consistency they played with.
That's big, man. And they non-conference going and beating people on neutral sites. Like, they came with it. Like, I think they caught everybody off guard. And like you said, with Buzz and Stackhouse, I do feel like what they did, because Vandy, I would have picked them, and anybody probably would have picked them to finish second or third to last in the conference.
Hey, for sure. Shout out to Jerry Stackhouse and Vanderbilt, because I remember I was like going to the gym or something, and I heard somebody on here, they had just lost by 50 or something.
Yeah, against Alabama.
Yep.
And
the
then
type of loss that can totally break you as a team.
And then 3 weeks later, they smacking Kentucky in Kentucky. I'm like, okay. And now he's a coach of the year. That's dope.
No,
and that shows
turnaround.
a lot about him and his staff, to like what you said, Lucas. His staff is able to keep those kids in it, because like you say, man, like they could have, man, forget this, man.
You lose all the time.
The opposite.
Yeah, did the exact opposite.
Kept them hungry.
Opposite.
That's what's up.
So
I love that for him.
You've listed Tennessee as a team that can win it. So in your mind, their ceiling in this tournament doesn't change without Zakai Ziegler. How does Vanderbilt's ceiling, considering the run they've been on, change in this tournament without Defensive Player of the Year Liam Robbins, who was just electric?
What happened to him?
In that stretch run?
Lower leg injury. So you got to go. You go from having a real live go-to guy. So the teams in the top always got a guy to tilt the scale. Alabama got Brandon Miller. Missouri got Kobe Brown. Arkansas got Nick Smith, Ricky Council. Kentucky got Sheboy and Cason Wallace. Texas A&M, Boots Radford, and Wade Taylor. Auburn, Yeah. They just right, you know what I mean?
Hey, South Carolina has that guy.
South Carolina got it in G.G. Jackson.
Auburn is still shell-shocked from that Alabama loss.
Yeah. So you always got guys that can tilt the scale when the hangs in the balance. Who's the guy you can go to? That's who Vandy had in Liam Robbins.
Yeah.
Liam, man, 7 foot man that can step out, shoot the three, and not going to favor the three. He just stepping out because I can do
That's
it.
what they gave him.
Yeah, but he going to be on the block, getting
Right.
busy and blocking shots. That's the thing, man. I don't know who steps up. I love Jordan Wright. I think he's a guy that can step up, but they got to kind of do like what Tennessee's going to do. Hopefully Lee Dort can play a couple of minutes coming back on the inside, and Quentin Malloy Brown, I think is his name, QMB. If he can get out there and give him some minutes, Malik Deal, the freshman, give him some minutes. They gotta be a force on the inside, dog. Because if they're not a force, they're gonna be in trouble. You gotta protect that paint, man. You gotta protect that paint. They're a scrappy style team. When their guards were getting beat, Lim was sending that to the stands. You know what I mean? And you play with a different instinct when you know you can get beat and you got somebody backing you up. You know what I mean? You don't do as much fouling and all that, so it's going to be interesting. But they got some dog in them. Stack usually come with some strategies. And then they're at home, so.
What's that Parsley looking like, buddy?
Parsley been on fire, too. I ain't playing, so I've been riding with guys. I did the Gonzaga, St. Mary's. I rolled with that. I rolled with the semifinals in that. I rolled with coming out of the regular season. I've been about 4 nights in a row, man. I'm in the red. I'm good, baby. I'm all the way good.
You parlaying the SEC tournament, or is that?
No, I'm hell yeah, I'm parlaying. Why wouldn't I? I ain't calling no
Tennessee,
game.
your Superbook Sports has Tennessee as the second favorite to win the SEC. Does that surprise you at all?
No, it don't. Because if you look at the matchups, like in this, they would play Ole Miss, South Carolina winner.
Yep.
You would expect them to win that. Then they play Missouri. And Missouri was hot in Thompson Bowling. You know what I'm saying? You don't expect them to be that
couldn't
hot.
miss anything.
Right. Then you got them to play Alabama, Mississippi State as the winner in the semis to get to the championship.
You're right now.
I think
Florida
they
in that second round, right?
I mean, yeah,
No
no
Colin
Colin
Castleton.
Castleton. Yeah, it's over.
So to you, that bottom bracket is more of a dogfight than the top.
It's nasty at the bottom, boy.
Yeah.
A&M, Vandy, Arkansas, Auburn gonna be a hell of a game. If you try to come out and see a game, go see that game. What is that?
Tomorrow at 6.
6 o'clock game Thursday.
Yeah, right as 3HL gets off the air.
Yeah, you want to see a good battle? Go check that one out, man. You want to see some pros? Go check Arkansas out because it's gonna be your last time you're gonna get to see a couple of them around here. They got 4 Council, Nick, Anthony Black.
I love
I
Anthony
feel like
Black.
I'm missing. Oh, true. 6'7" point guard. They got 4 guys going to the league. Well, 3 right now. Brazil probably had to come back because of ACL. But yeah, they tough, man. Go see some talent right there, y'all.
Slay, I want to present an idea to you. You said it's hard to fill out tournament brackets because so much crazy stuff happens. It's March.
Right.
We got to step
Madness.
up. We can't just go off analytics and statistics
That's
and
right.
knowledge of these teams.
Y'all go off field.
So what I do is I pick the school, I pick a notable alumni from that school, and then the higher seed, I decide what kind of contest they would have. So for the games today, I got South Carolina and Ole Miss. I picked Darius Rucker for South Carolina, and I picked Michael Orr, the blind side, for Ole Miss. Now, since South Carolina is a higher seed, they get to dictate what the contest would be.
Yeah.
Hootie and the Blowfish, Darius Rucker. It would be a singing contest. And I don't know if y'all saw The Blind Side. Michael Orr does not look like somebody more of a singer. He looks like a background dancer, the people that do the side-to-side shuffle. Yeah. So I got South Carolina moving on to the next round.
I like that.
Well, hold on. Can that be a sneak peek? Do you want to stay for this foolishness on the other side?
I can do it.
Let's flush this out a little bit. Talking SEC tournament with Ron Slay, Keith Bulluck, Lucas Panzica with you on 104.5 The Zone. Those Biscoff cookies, man.
Lightly glad to be the man's child. Hey, boy, woo.
If I ever get cut off on an airplane, I'll be getting cut off from those cookies, not anything.
That's it. That's it. I beg them every time. So I sit in the exit row, and when they come, they got to tell you to hey, can you assist if the plane going down or something like? So I say, yeah, I can assist if you bring me some Biscoff cookies. That's an even trade right there. And it
Barter
be
with
more
me,
than 6.
Gypsy. Lucas Panzica in studio
Don't put
hanging
the pressure
out.
on me. Keep it on the pilot, lady.
Rod Slay and Keith Bulluck are here. Robert Walsh is making things happen. And in the middle of all this foolishness, we're going to fill out an SEC tournament bracket because I feel like that doesn't happen enough in conference tournament play. So, at the top half of my bracket, I think Tennessee plays South Carolina tomorrow. I think South Carolina has more difference makers than Ole Miss, and they've lost 5 of their last 6 going down the stretch after firing Kermit Davis. So if Tennessee were to beat South Carolina, who they beat by a combined 84 points, whatever it was in the regular
85.
season, 85, they would go on to play Missouri, who they lost to in buzzer-beating fashion. As you said, Slay, Mizzou red hot from outside in that game a couple of months ago in Thompson Bowling Arena. So, but that's kind of the logic that I'm going by is, okay, which of these teams has the difference makers that can overcome the fact that it's the SEC tournament and these teams are so intimately familiar with each other. I worry, Slay, about Tennessee's ability to overcome that, especially without Zakai Ziegler. Like other teams' ability to game plan for Tennessee without Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah.
And that Auburn game the offense was good until the last 5 minutes or so. Auburn, kind of a must-win game for them. But still, just the familiarity of the SEC tournament is what worries me with Tennessee, as opposed to the NCAA tournament where you can catch anybody on any given day.
That's why you need, with Tennessee, unfamiliar characters to pop up.
Yeah.
Like Olivier Cumwa, to play unfamiliar, like that. Don't play like your normal self. Play like you're supposed to play. And like he can be a difference maker. Without quit, like you could easily walk away from each game and Olivier have 18-10, 18-12. You know what I'm saying? He has to give that type of effort, and that right there will neutralize when you go play a Missouri Kobe Brown. You know what I'm saying? So he'll be a scale tilter. If he can do that, then I'm really not worried about Tennessee. If you can get that kind of performance out of him, along with everybody else being normal, Sante shooting the way he is, or even just the threat of it. Tyreek Key, what you gonna do, dog?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is this is what you got to understand in pro sports. Anytime the season's coming to an end, I don't care what you've done up to that point. All they remember is how you end the season.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Like that. How you gonna go get your next contract? How'd you end the season? Not what you do it in the first 4 months of the season and preseason. You could have killed then and the end of the season bad. That's null and void. You better end that season the right. I always made sure I ended the season the right way because I want them knocking at my door. You can make everything erase.
That's how in college. That's how I learned it in college. College coach always said they never remember September or October. They always remember December and January because that's when you're playing in the bowl games and stuff like that. So it's not how you start or it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So
absolutely, absolutely.
So how's this bracket shaking out, KB?
Me, I'm good to go.
Oh, you already got your winner and everything?
I believe I do. Man,
I need a pen.
Here you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So, based off the information you gave me last segment, we just we're gonna go all the way.
Are you putting this on me? I feel like
no. I got obviously South Carolina. Well, South Carolina beating Ole Miss. LSU, Georgia, it's a toss up. I just put LSU. Whatever you could tell me about that. But let's just go to the quarter. That's the bracket of 8. So I got Bama obviously beating the Gators. That's what I put. I got Missouri upsetting. Well, I don't know if it's upset, but I got Missouri moving on against the Vols because it just sounds like they have to adjust to too much against a team that's pretty hot right now.
And know who they are.
Yeah, and they got the double bye. So they're going to come in like trying to get the Vols out of there because they know the Vols are a tough out even without Ziegler being there, if they play with their food.
They'll be prepared for it.
Yeah, absolutely. A&M would beat Arkansas. I had Arkansas beating Auburn. I got Vandy playing Kentucky, and I got Vandy, using that momentum, man.
I like
taking Kentucky again. Now I think that, when they beat them in Lexington, it was like snap moment. But now, it's tournament time, and like you said, tournament time changes the beast. So they're playing like somebody. They believe in themselves. You could throw the records out.
Yep.
Like you say, it's that time of the year. And they playing down the street. Yep. They playing at home. Yep. So, I got them.
That's a Kentucky crowd, though, KB.
It's most definitely all blue.
You know what? A Kentucky crowd, but in your backyard. I love it. I love it even more.
Yeah, I like it too.
Because when
listen, that's the mindset. You know what I'm saying? That ain't nothing but the mentality coming
they
out.
at home, but like Vandy boys, they like 8-minute Uber ride. These people coming 2 hours and 38 minutes away. Come on, man. We got to send them back to that Bluegrass Highway upset. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Vandy, I got Vandy, Bama in the finals, and I just I let it go from there. I just take Vandy and Bama all the way to the finals because I got Bama beating Missouri because Bama's tough. They're tough.
So
because Auburn had them down. I went and I took my daughter to volleyball practice, came back.
It was different ball game.
17-point
Different ball game. Yep. I got quarterfinals, Mississippi State and Alabama. Tennessee versus Mizzou. Tennessee beating South Carolina. Arkansas versus A&M. Arkansas beating Auburn. Vandy versus Kentucky. Vandy beating LSU. So in that one, going to the semis on Saturday, I got Bama beating Mississippi State. I think it's going to be a tough battle, though. Tennessee beating Mizzou. I think they get some get back on that one. A&M beating Arkansas. I think the guard play is going to get them. And Arkansas can't shoot the three well.
Yeah.
Which is going to hurt them. Vandy versus Kentucky. I got Kentucky just because it's their first game, and I think the crowd and not having anything to battle Shebway. I think they up there in the Bluegrass State, they got to show me one more time. UK, that being their first game here, that crowd going to be off the meter. So I think that carries them over. So you got Bama versus Tennessee, A&M versus UK. I got Bama beating Tennessee just because of Sears and Quinterly at the point guard spot not having anybody to battle them. A&M beating Kentucky. So A&M and Bama playing for the championship.
Okay.
I got A&M.
You got A&M they just coming off a win against Alabama on Saturday.
You know why, though? Because the last 2 years, Texas A&M been knocking at the door.
That's true.
They've been knocking at the door, and it's the same group damn near.
Made a championship run last year.
Yeah. I didn't have that little tidbit of information to make that. I like that.
It's the same group, man. It's the same group.
That means a lot.
Hey, it do mean a lot. And people still letting them. They really ain't giving Texas A&M their credit.
No, you're right.
It's still darn, Texas A&M.
Their consistency this season in conference play, was the best in the conference. And I know they didn't win the regular season. They don't have the difference maker over Brandon Miller, which is why I have Alabama beating A&M in the championship. But yeah, Buzz Williams deserving of the co-coach of the year. Before we go, Robert, what's the most intriguing celebrity matchup in all of this? I'm saying Dolly Parton beats Darius Rucker, and if you say otherwise, then.
No, you're right. Dolly's all the way
problems.
to the semifinals where she's facing off against Burt Reynolds of Florida. But my most interesting matchup.
He went to Florida State.
Don't say that. He was under Florida. I'm going to let him pass for the mustache. And I'm also not looking up notable Florida alumni again. But the most notable matchup for me would have to be the 10-7 with John Daly taking on Jimmy Buffett. So for this one, I told you the higher seed dictates the contest. Jimmy Buffett, he thinks he can throw a good party. So whoever you think can throw the better party, I think he's sleeping on John Daly.
Without question.
My boy will chief and chug y'all out of the building.
Mess with Daly.
So I got
Daly, Arkansas, Buffett, what?
Auburn. Jimmy Buffett. Yes, sir. Cheeseburger in paradise. But that's fine because 10 is moving on. John Daly's going to face off against Dan Campbell and Texas A&M.
Okay. All right. I'll take Daly in that. I don't know. Campbell bite off some kneecaps. Slay, appreciate it, man.
Man, no doubt, baby.
2 segments. That's what's up.
Can't wait to watch it this week.
Hey, I got a cigar spot we got to go check out.
Hey, Bully, I'm game.
I got one for you.
When are you on tomorrow?
All day.
All day. And then on 3HL.
Yeah. Then Feinbaum today at 5:20. Then we got the halftime, post-game, halftime SEC now that night, finishing up at about 11:30 or 12, and then the same thing tomorrow.
Gonna be a
Thursday,
fun week.
Friday. Yep.
See you tomorrow, Slay.
Jim.
Dumbest thing in sports this week. Next.
What's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. Yesterday was the deadline to place franchise tags in the NFL, and we saw 6 players hit with those franchise tags. The Ravens hit Lamar Jackson with the non-exclusive tag. More on that in a second. The Giants tagged Saquon Barkley. Cowboys tagged running back Tony Pollard. Raiders tagged Josh Jacobs. Jaguars tagged Evan Ingram. And the Commanders tagged Daron Payne. Now back to Jackson. Jackson being placed with the non-exclusive franchise tag means that he can engage in contract talks with other teams. If another team presents him with a contract he likes, he can sign that. Baltimore will have the chance to match any contract, and if they refuse to do so, they will be rewarded with 2 first-round picks. Another quarterback signed his deal yesterday. The New York Giants signed quarterback Daniel Jones to a 4-year contract and put their non-exclusive franchise tag on Saquon Barkley. Jones' deal is worth $160 million with $82 million in guarantees. The SEC basketball tournament begins today. Ole Miss taking on South Carolina at 6 o'clock, and LSU and Georgia will follow that. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Every Wednesday at about this time, we do this same thing. Lucas Panzica with you, Buck Reising on the slopes somewhere in Colorado, hopefully not making a fool of himself. Keith Bulluck with us in studio. Robert Walsh is our producer. Appreciate Ron Slay stopping by. Catch him all week on SEC Network. 3HL will be only on the air for an hour tomorrow because of Tennessee basketball, and then maybe again on Thursday if Tennessee takes care of business. They will take on the winner between Ole Miss and South Carolina. That game will tip off tonight at 6. A lot to get to today with the quarterback carousel. But first, it's the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Reising Show.
Presented by Painter Ready, a faith-based company whose mission is to provide the highest quality painting services available. 2019 Ruthie's award-winning company for best residential and commercial painting. You can find them at painterreadymurfreesboro.com. 615-737-1045. Lines are already starting to load up with the dumbest thing in sports this week. So, Keith Bulluck, what is your dumbest thing in sports this week as your Syracuse Orange tips off right behind you in the ACC tournament?
Oh, exhilarating. I think my dumbest thing in sports this week, I got to give it to my man LeBron James. And I give it to Bron. All due respect to him as a person and athlete, but sometimes as a parent, you know, sometimes you just got to fall back and let your kids do their thing. And his quote off Twitter, and I quote, I guess he was, before I say the quote, I guess he was sitting back watching some games, some League Pass, some NBA games, because he's injured. And he says, man, on Twitter, Bronny definitely better than some of these cats I've been watching on League Pass today. Shiza, lightweight hilarious.
Poor Bronny, man.
So, you know, it was just like, and I say that's dumb because, look, man, like, we all know Bronny's a talented kid. And, you know, he's LeBron James' son. He's going to be able to go to any college he wants to, probably off talent alone. You know what I mean? So it doesn't help that his dad jumps out there and, you know, who is the greatest basketball player in the world right now, arguably, and co-signs something that's probably not true. And I say it's probably not true. I'm not saying he can't play, but the people that have gone from high school to the league, Tracy McGrady, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, like if his son can't take him out back right now and beat him in 21 as an 18-year-old against his 38-year-old dad, I don't want to hear it. He's not ready for the NBA at that level because, LeBron is still at a high level, so his son should be able to at least compete. 21-18, 21, but I think with his son being 6'3", 185 against 6'6", 245, he might get scraped. So I just think that I just went with that.
But he's going to get in the league. Right?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't doubt that or the kid's talent. I'm just saying, Bron needs to chill because Bron said something else. He's co-signed his son several times when his son has never said anything. And it's just, to me, it's just not a good look. Let your kids play, you know what I mean? And it'll work out for them.
My dumbest thing in sports this week goes to CBS Sports and Dennis Dodd, who does a great job covering college football for CBS, but he put out an article with 23 thoughts going into spring practice, 23 storylines for college football spring practice, which in many cases has already started up, and others it will start here in the next couple of weeks. But the second to last note here from Dennis Dodd, number 22, in bold, it says the Nico Iamaleava era begins at Tennessee. Talking about Iamaleava, the five-star prospect from California, the NIL poster boy that Dodd says, quote, reportedly signing a 3-year bonus-laden $8 million NIL deal with a Tennessee collective. So he's going into spring practice, Dodd says, with one small detail. Iamaleava must beat out veteran Joe Milton, who can throw it from here to next Thursday and is familiar with Josh Heupel's explosive offense. The quarterback battle winner must somehow resemble Hendon Hooker. How Iamaleava lives up to his contract will be mixed in with new offensive coordinator Joey Halzle. He says, you won't believe this, and then in the middle says, actually you will, but there are already whispers Iamaleava is not worth the $8 million. Tennessee is covered as closely as the White House, Dodd says. So a couple of things there. First, the thought that Iamaleava has to beat out Joe Milton his freshman year is just not the case. Joe Milton is the presumed starter for Tennessee. Joe Milton has waited his turn. He showed out in the Orange Bowl. He is going into spring practice, and I don't even think is the favorite to be the starter, but in most cases, as the starter. He is the starter for this team.
That should be definitive.
Tennessee starts spring practice March 20th. KB. Iamaleava is not allowed to throw a pass with his coaches watching him yet. How can you sit there and say there are whispers that Iamaleava is not worth the alleged $8 million in NIL money that he's getting from Tennessee? That makes no sense to me. And I'm not in the building. I've never met Nico Iamaleava. You've only heard good things about Nico Iamaleava. You're not necessarily going to hear bad things if that is the case. But he hasn't even stepped on the practice field yet. How are you going to come out here and tell me that there are whispers that he's not worth the $8 million as a freshman who got to campus like a few weeks ago?
Well, I mean, to try to answer your question, his sources have to be people that are around and have seen him throw that aren't even credible to what applicates to the system he's going to be in. You know what I'm saying? So like you just said, if he hasn't even been able to throw or even work with his coaches in that capacity, anything that has been seen of him is null and void. Like he's not even in the program yet necessarily for anyone to make those statements. So I'm liking where you're going with this.
Robert Walsh, what's your dumbest thing in sports this week?
Well, I was waiting on Jim Boeheim to pick his nose or say something mean about Greensboro, but I guess I'm going to have to go to the NFL.
He does pick his nose.
In press conferences, man, the cameras are on you, big dog. Like, at least he's not eating them.
He's in his 70s, man.
Yeah.
He's still running the 2-3.
Right.
They don't even run a 2-3 in, like, rec league.
We're watching it right now. We're watching that 2-3 defense.
He's working. He's got all his kids on the team. I wonder if they pick their nose, too. But I'm not going to talk bad about Jim Boeheim. I'm not going to talk about – but – what I will talk bad about is it's kind of dumb that all of these teams came out and said almost instantly after Lamar was placed with the franchise tag, oh, the Atlanta Falcons are not interested. Oh, the Las Vegas Raiders are not interested. But I'm going to pick one. I think the Washington Commanders are dumb as hell for not even wanting to talk to Lamar and see if they could come up with some semblance of a contract. You just got all this fanfare for signing Eric Bieniemy to be your offensive coordinator, and you're going to stick him with Sam Howell? You actually had a good draft last year. You got Jahan Dodson. You got Terry McLaurin. They've still got a competent running back room, offensive line, and you're going to expect Sam Howell to tote that load? They don't even draft anywhere close to being able to pick one of these rookies in the draft. So are you going to bring back Carson Wentz? Are you going to jump in the Jimmy G sweepstakes? It's just puzzling to me that they would put all of their eggs in the basket of, Eric Bieniemy is going to make this team a playoff team. Eric Bieniemy is going to help this team in the NFC East, as the NFC is pretty dominant. The Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants all have their quarterbacks, and they're all ready to roll. And you're okay with sitting back, running in with Sam Howell, and hoping that Eric Bieniemy can turn him into Patrick Mahomes. That's my dumbest thing in sports this week.
I like where you went with that, because Eric Bieniemy is not going to play one down for the Washington Redskins. Eric Bieniemy was working with 2 first-round quarterbacks, first being Alex Smith, and then he got Patrick Mahomes. So it's just not guys that he was working with. So, that's a little baffling that the Redskins wouldn't throw there. It almost sounds like a little bit of a collusion situation brewing.
That's been a buzzword in the last couple of days. We'll get into that on the other side. Ron Rivera did say last week that Sam Howell is not the starter next season, simply saying he's entering the offseason as QB1 and he will compete, but he is not their starter. He made that clear last week, but that will be interesting to see who plays out. So the Washington Commanders were one of a few teams that are apparently out of the running for Lamar Jackson. Won't even speak to Lamar Jackson. Let's get into that a little bit and how that affects the rest of this quarterback carousel. Eric from Nashville, I see you, coming to you on the other side as well with the dumbest thing in sports this week. 615-737-1045. Keith Bulluck, Robert Walsh, Lucas Panzica hanging out with you until 1 o'clock on 1045 The Zone. So what do we make of all the teams that are supposedly out of the running for Lamar Jackson? A lot of buzzwords have been popping up here over the course of the last 24 hours or so. We're really until the Ravens made that non-exclusive tag official yesterday, but still taking your calls on the dumbest thing in sports this week. 615-737-1045. Lucas Panzica, Keith Bulluck with you until 1 o'clock on 104.5 The Zone. We go to Eric in Nashville. Will lead us off this segment. What's up, Eric?
Hey, guys, before I get to my dumbest thing in sports, Adam Schefter's report this morning, this is what he said, that teams cannot negotiate with Lamar Jackson until noon Monday, because if they offer him contracts anything before then, they could be charged with tampering. So we may want to wait until after that. Yeah. So we may want to wait. Some teams may be sandbagging. So anyway, guys, my dumbest thing in sports, guys, goes to former NFL running back and Vanderbilt Commodore Zach Stacy. You probably have seen and heard about this story. He's been sentenced to 6 months in prison for assaulting his ex-girlfriend.
That's it.
And of course, the reason that he did it was because she owed him rent money. Now, there's a video out there, and I saw the video, and it's pretty disturbing. He grabs her by her hair and throws her into a flat-screen TV, and it's in front of their child they had together that's sitting in a hot chair. That's really, really bad. And the fact is, what's going to happen once he gets out? Will he go after her again? Because she's got fear for life. He only got 6 months for this, guys. Unbelievable, guys. Y'all take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for the call, Eric.
Yeah, I saw that. I remember when that happened, that whole video. That was pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. He only got 6 months for that.
Yeah.
And to add a little more context to that, I believe that she, spoke up on his behalf. So, yeah, I'll leave that one alone.
Yeah.
I'll leave that one there.
It was a disturbing situation with the former Vanderbilt running back. So, the quarterback carousel. Lamar Jackson apparently is not wanted by the likes of the Washington Commanders, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, essentially coming out and saying, nah, we're good. Not going to pursue a contract discussion with Lamar Jackson. So, KB, the word, and it came up just in the last segment, the word that immediately comes up, it starts with the C, right? It's collusion. All these owners, they want to get together and say, we don't want to pay any more guaranteed deals for these quarterbacks. They want the Deshaun Watson thing to be a complete outlier. But here's my thing. Why does it have to be that? Why does it have to be that the owners got together and they said, okay, so we're all on the same page on this, right? Like, we're all going to come out and we're going to talk. We're not interested. We don't want to pursue this deal. We don't want this to be the norm every offseason in the quarterback market. Can't those owners already all hold those opinions and want those things without having to talk to each other and collude to come out at the same time and say, no, we don't want a part of this?
Yeah, that could be true too, but why? I mean, they've done it in the past. There's a reason why there is collude. There's a reason why those things have brought up, because these same owners have done it in the past. They're millionaire, billionaire owners. There's 32 of them. And if they feel that the price on one of the commodities, if they feel like the price on pork bellies is too high, they're going to do something to cause the price of pork bellies to go down and the price of orange juice to go up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little Trading Places reference. But still, that's you're dealing with commodities when it comes to these NFL players at the end of the day. So if it's the people that might understand things in that way, it's the same thing.
Is this what you deal with the price of coffee and milk and creamer?
With milk, yes, the price of milk is definitely going up. The price of milk is going up. Price of bacon is going up for sure, man.
What about eggs? I mean, Just Love has good food, good breakfast burritos.
Eggs are going. I've seen that. Definitely seen the change in eggs. But eggs, bacon, and I would say whatever the first one was. Coffees and milk. Eggs, bacon, and milk. That's from a business owner standpoint.
Are all coffee shop owners gathering together and colluding to drive down the price of eggs and milk when stuff like this happens?
No, because we're not in a union together. We don't work together. We're all independent contractors out here trying to survive. Now, if there was a coffee union made up of 32 coffee shops, and we were bringing in all the revenue for the coffee business, we most certainly would get together and be like, look, we're going to go over here and get our milk, or we're just not going to, we'll figure something out to make the milk distributors, see what we're talking about. It happens in business all the time, and the National Football League is $1 billion business. Just makes sense.
So Lamar Jackson, quarterbacks are eggs in this scenarios where coffee shop owners are out saying, we are done paying $11 for a dozen eggs. I guess you're not buying a dozen eggs like someone at a grocery store, but you get the point. We are done paying these giant guaranteed contracts for quarterbacks. We didn't like that the Browns did it. We don't want that to be the norm each and every offseason. But I think, and somebody just said it in the chat, Tyler said teams fought over Deshaun Watson but immediately are out on Lamar. And I think that's where the confusion is. The Atlanta Falcons were in on Deshaun Watson when that process was ongoing before he eventually landed with the Cleveland Browns. And the Atlanta Falcons feel like a perfect fit for Lamar Jackson. So I was pretty mystified, I'll be honest, when I saw the Atlanta Falcons pretty quickly came out and said, no, we were good. We don't want to part in Lamar Jackson.
Well, our caller that just called, I forget his name, he said that teams can't speak to him, I guess, until Monday.
Legal tampering starts next week. Yeah.
So, I guess they're holding out. So that would make sense that they're saying that.
And it makes sense, too, because the Falcons balked at the contract that the Browns gave Watson. They had a chance to match it. The Saints did as well. And they balked at the fully guaranteed deal, which is why he, at the last minute, backed out and decided to go to Cleveland. So I've got some options about why I don't think it's collusion and why I think it's a myriad of options as to why teams wouldn't be interested in Lamar Jackson at this time.
Right.
One, I think it's most teams look at it like you're doing the work for Baltimore. Like what can I do that their general manager couldn't do over 2 months? Like, am I going to come here and negotiate a contract and do all of this work only for Baltimore to go, yep, we'll match that. No
You're
problem.
betting against yourself.
Bingo. And they've got other work to do. This is a busy time of year. So not only would they be negotiating with Lamar Jackson, they would be negotiating with their own free agents. They would be negotiating with the free agents on the market. They would be negotiating and looking at draft stuff, talking to scouts. This is a busy time of year, and maybe most teams don't have the time and resources to invest into talking with Lamar under a much smaller window than what Baltimore had to talk about previously. The next is the cost, plus the cost. You have to pay and give him what's probably going to be the second most lucrative deal in NFL history. That's one thing. That messes up your salary cap. That messes up the money that you can spend to retain your own free agents or make your roster better. But also, you have to give up 2 first-round picks. And while that price alone, 2 first-round picks, seems a little short for Lamar, that's probably what the market is. 2 first-round picks. Like, maybe it's a second, maybe it's another player, maybe it's something else thrown in. But if you take on that large salary, you take 2 away of your 2 pieces that can make your team better away in the future immediately. So you're working with second round and on after that. And lastly, you would have to have the money in escrow to do this large deal, which is partially why I believe the Las Vegas Raiders aren't interested. You saw it with Amari Cooper. You saw it with Khalil Mack. You saw it this last season where they were thinking about firing Josh McDaniels, but they didn't have the money to do so. Whenever you sign a player to a big deal like this, you have to take that money in escrow, put it in an account, and have it. You can't say like, we'll make sure you get paid next week, buddy. The Raiders aren't flush with cash. They don't have the money to do this immediately. And if you can't fire your head coach because you're too broke, I doubt you can hand out the second richest contract in NFL history. Those are the kind of things that I was looking at with this Lamar deal.
Yeah, I like all the points you made, and to add on to that, I just still think it's early. I just still think it's very, very early. And unfortunately, I feel like the Ravens messed up by not getting it done last year. They wouldn't even be at this point. Lamar did his thing by going out there, went to camp, didn't complain, played in the games, got them to a position to where they were first and leading their conference by at least 3 games. And look, the rest is history. The Ravens know who they are when he's out there. And I think when things open up and teams are allowed to open up their books and do those type of things, you guys will have a different conversation on air next week.
And none of these teams that have come out and said that they're not interested are beholden to that.
Yeah.
They can all, in a week, decide, you know what, like, I want to have a meeting with Lamar. I actually want to see where he's coming from. None of these people have to be like, nope, no take backsies. You said you weren't going to talk to Lamar. You can't talk to Lamar. Remember, I just broke up with him. That's the rule. You can't talk to my girlfriend. We just broke up. That's not how this works. Anybody can talk to him on Monday in the legal tampering period.
And to be fair, like, I don't care if the team gets 2 first-round draft picks. You're not going to get a quarterback in this draft that's going to, the Ravens aren't, that's going to replace Lamar Jackson. And in free agency, I don't think that there's nobody out there.
By the way, Keith Bulluck hanging out with us in studio until 1 o'clock on 104.5 The Zone. Michael tweets us, KB. He says, I get why teams don't want to give Lamar a fully guaranteed contract. His injury history is a huge problem. He's not going to play every game for 4 or 5 years. He's going to miss games. Patrick Mahomes, I would give the keys to Fort Knox. So maybe that's a part of this, because everything we've heard about the discussions between Lamar and the Ravens they're so far apart because Lamar Jackson will not leave his standpoint of fully guaranteed contract. My confusion is why teams are saying they don't even want to broach him, don't even want to start a conversation with him. Do they feel like that's a fruitless endeavor because he doesn't have an agent, because he appears to be dug in, because they don't want to enter those types of negotiations? Like, how do you see this when you look at a player that does not have an agent? What kind of problems can arise there? Can it get personal in a way? Like how much of a shoulder is this for Lamar to burden without an agent and trying to wade through one of the biggest quarterback deals of the NFL offseason?
Well, I think it's kind of like a misconception when you hear, a person doesn't have an agent. Like, obviously, he might not have an agent that he speaks to every single day, but they do have some type of representation when it comes to negotiating the contract. Like, you don't need an agent to necessarily speak for you when it comes to business and talking to GMs. GMs would prefer that. A team would prefer that because they have maybe a better business relationship or whatever it is. Not to say that an agent's going to cut corners for the in favor of the organization. That will never happen. But, it's a different conversation when you're dealing with whoever Lamar's representation is, if they're not someone that you're used to dealing with that has several other players that you have dealt with in the past. So then, the communication can be different. It might take one side, it depends on, to understand certain languages or just to get on the same page, because I would assume, and I don't know, without an agent, you're going to probably come in a little harder and it's going to be a little tougher stance, on your end, because you're going to come in wanting what you want and you're really not going to have that more, I say professional eye, in a sense that an agent has probably been in and dealt with more of these type negotiations than a contract agent. So I don't necessarily know what's going on in Lamar's camp, but I've heard that he has obviously not an agent, but he has an advisory in that situation.
But I wonder if that does maybe discourage teams from getting into those talks, because they'd rather get into it with somebody that, hey, is going to be in Lamar's ear about when to back down in certain areas, about when to push back in certain areas, the timing of things. Even if he has representation, it's obviously not an agent that represents several starting quarterbacks in the NFL like most of these guys have, or several starting caliber players in the NFL like most of these guys have. I wonder if there are teams out there that would just say, you know what, not really trying to deal with that. He's asking for a fully guaranteed deal. There's not really much of a middleman. We're good. We're just going to keep going.
Well, I mean, that's fair. They could do that too. But at the end of the day, my agent works for me. So he's doing what I say.
Yeah.
Like, so dealing with an agent or not, you're like, depending on how much of control that said player has of their career, that agent is working on my behalf. So the agent is definitely not going to go speak or say anything differently that I'm saying to him if he's my representation that I'm paying him, So agent or not, it's the same conversation. It's just maybe the delivery or, the familiarity changes.
Taking your calls on this, 615-737-1045. Chris in Murfreesboro wants to talk about Lamar. What's up, Chris?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. You said there were several teams said they weren't interested, and maybe they're not. But the Deshaun Watson deal by Haslam was a crazy deal. They were very desperate. So they made this guaranteed offer, which kind of threw everybody crazy, especially the quarterback there in Baltimore. But we have to think about which team is so desperate for a quarterback and has an owner that's a little off center, that describes the Indianapolis Colts. I could see him right now putting together an offer for this man on Monday. And they also have the number 4 pick. Baltimore would love to have that number 1 pick. So he could be in the same league with the Titans.
Thanks for the call, Chris.
Just my thought. Yep.
I mean, look, you never know. You've seen crazier things. That would suck for the Titans.
Talk about something that would throw a wrench into the draft.
Jonathan Taylor, hey, you never know. And then also, like, to stay on Lamar Jackson, like you're saying, why teams might be staying away because he's always hurt. He can't stay on the field. I feel that, all right, we know how dynamic Lamar Jackson is as the runner. We know he has a great deep ball. He can make just about every throw. It's time for these coaches to start evolving Lamar Jackson's game by changing their style of calling. You understand? Like, he's fragile. Yeah, you run him 17 times a game in the NFL. So, okay, you have that run package. Now, why don't we get your play action package down for him? Start creating more packages for him so you're not putting him at risk as much. So if you want to run him 9 times a game, more than 17, that's cool because we saw how dynamic Cam Newton was. And Cam, at some point, he started to, you can't change. I think Lamar is early enough in his career, and it wasn't on Cam to change. That's just what the offense called for. It called for student body right, quarterback power, jump over this, jump over that. So then in years 6, 7, they're talking about, Cam needs to change his style. Nah, he can't because nobody even thought about changing his style because he was in the Super Bowl. It was just effective. It was just his style was effective. Then his body started breaking down. So the way I'm looking at it with the younger Lamar Jackson, who's still only 25 years old, start to change the way, like the new offensive coordinator, okay, you know what he could do. So let's develop his game a little bit more. Let's develop his passing game. Let's start develop the short passing game, the play action game. Let's get a running back. Let's get pieces around him that allows him to still be dynamic, doesn't put him as much risk. And, obviously he's going to win because he always has. But that's, the catch-22 in that is, you put all this money into Lamar at quarterback, where do you find those guys for cheap?
How much would teams have to change their offenses in order to fit Lamar Jackson? And I think that conversation could relate to certain reports that we heard about a certain Tennessee Titan player over the course of this past week. I do want to get your thoughts on that as well, KB, on what we've seen coming down about whether or not the Titans have been shopping Derrick Henry. We'll continue to take your call, 615-737-1045. Lucas Panzica, Keith Bulluck with you until 1 o'clock on 1045 The Zone. So what are the requirements for an NFL offense to be able to fit Lamar Jackson in? How many teams, would it take one or two hands? How many teams could bring Lamar in and just go and not have to change much and just be a contender immediately? And could those teams be in on Lamar Jackson? Is that part of this conversation? Lucas Panzica, Keith Bulluck with you until 1 o'clock. KB, you were talking about during the break the San Francisco 49ers and what that would look like. A team that would have to wait until after the NFL draft in order to be able to give up those 2 first-round picks in 24 and 25 to acquire Lamar Jackson. But when you talk about a team that could stand to mortgage its future to win now, the San Francisco 49ers are certainly in a position like that. And you even have quarterbacks on the roster in Trey Lance and Brock Purdy that you could move if that were the case and maybe make up some of that on the back end. But if you look around, other than the Baltimore Ravens, is there a team out there that you think, oh, that would work with Lamar?
I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm going to let my Robert, go ahead, do your thing, brother.
I talked earlier in the show about how positive I was and how on the outlook of Lamar returning to Baltimore. But after the most recent caller gave us the Colts, I'm kind of sweating. I'm shaking in my boots a little bit because on paper you look at them and they've got $11.9 million, far less than you'd need to sign Lamar. But they can make some bank up, whether through cuts or restructures. They cut Matt Ryan, $17 million back on their salary cap. They cut Stephon Gilmore, another $9 million. Through restructures, they can make about $28 million. So look, on paper, that's enough to fit him in. You'd have to mar your roster, take away some older veterans, but you could fit Lamar in. And I think a year ago, if we take last year out of the equation, Indianapolis is probably regarded as one of the best offensive lines in football. They've got a great running back in Jonathan Taylor, and they've got some good weapons at wide receiver and tight end. They signed Jelani Woods as a rookie last year. They've got guys. So that would scare me. I think the Colts, and we saw the press conference, if they're interested in Lamar, we'll probably know about it tomorrow. Like, they'll come out and be like, Lamar Jackson guy's pretty good. The only reason I would say they would be out on Lamar is because of how far up in the draft they are. To give up that number 4 pick and another pick in the next year, that's something that they would have to weigh heavy in regarding whether they want to extend a contract to Lamar or not.
And I feel that's why, and that's a great take, and I feel that's why that's even more appealing to Baltimore, because in their eyes is like, oh, if we can get Anthony Richardson with the number 4 pick, didn't give up Lamar, now we can get more, we save money, we can get more, we get another draft pick, and we have more money to get more resources for said Anthony Richardson with the number 4 pick and sending them to Indy. But, Lamar going to Indy, I know, hey, Miss Amy, she need to go collude right now.
Doing some colluding.
A little colluding going on.
Oh, Tyler says the Dolphins would be a good fit. Emmett says Atlanta would be a good fit. He says Washington would also be a good fit.
The Colts are the best fit based upon that breakdown. Like and they have the money to do it. I'm definitely going riding with the Titans all day, every day. But what makes sense makes sense, and maybe it's the off season, so maybe Irsay, he gets a little weird in the off season. You never know; he might not be paying attention. But if he's locking in like he did once upon a time during my days, he's trying to get back to them glory days of the Colts of past.
Well, they've seemed pretty focused on that number 4 overall pick to this point. Jim Irsay going as far to say, yeah, that Bryce Young kid looks pretty good. I agree with you, Robert. If the Colts were in on Lamar, I feel like Irsay would let that slip by tomorrow at some point before the legal tampering period. 615-737-1045. Steve is in Nashville to talk about Lamar Jackson. What's up, Steve?
Lucas, Steve 1. Thanks for taking my call today. It's such a special day without Buck. So if you look at the numbers, if you're happy with 2,000 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of about, 69, you can have him. So those are his numbers. And Does the guy throw people open? No. He hadn't shown that yet in the league in 5 years. I don't understand why everybody makes such a big deal of him. You're going to have to change everything you're doing. He'd probably match up with us because we run the football a ton. Do I want that? No, especially going in on turf. But look at the big picture of things. He ain't going to throw for more than 2,000, 2,500 yards a year. So I wouldn't give him that much money either, and I think it's crazy to sit here and talk about it.
I have a quick. Let me ask you, what do you mean by when you say throw people open? What does that mean?
What does that mean? All right, so I'd have to really stop and think. I watched your career too. If I've got somebody who's running an out route, I'm going to throw to a spot. Lamar Jackson has yet to figure that out yet. I hate to say this. Neither has Hurts. They can't figure out. There's a bunch of quarterbacks in the league. If you look,
these are two MVP quarterbacks you're talking about.
Right.
These are guys. I mean,
that's fine. I get that, but I'm also saying they don't throw to a spot. They do not throw receivers open. Everything is predicated on that receiver already open. Just watch tape. It's not that hard to do.
No doubt.
Thanks for the call, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard to do, but is Steve an NFL quarterback? I mean,
Did you think somebody was going to tell you to go watch tape today, Keith Bulluck?
I love people grinding tape.
I know for a fact that it is harder than it seems, But yeah, no, I can understand where he's coming from. All realistically, Lamar Jackson's just not his cup of tea. He would rather not, if he was an NFL owner, he would rather not have Lamar Jackson just based upon his style. But like I said earlier, Lucas, his style is based upon the offensive coordinator. Like, that's what I'm saying. So an offensive coordinator, they're all coming in like, oh, we have to do this. We have to do that. Have they tried anything else? He's only been in the league for several years, 4 or 5 years, 25. So these offensive coordinators are coming in with specific game plans that are calling for the majority of the game plan to be the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands. He's okay with that. Lamar Jackson's okay with that, but that's why I find it hard. It's a hard, tough argument when you have fans and callers that are like, he can't throw for this, he can't do that. Well, I tell you what, they should say that about Steve McNair, but they were giving the ball to Eddie George 35 times a game. And then once they stopped giving, they started to allow Steve to develop more as a passer with Mike Heimerdinger. He won MVP and is throwing, for whatever the league standard was back in those days. So I just think that players are able to do what they're asked to do. Now, if he's asked to pass 40 times a game and he's still inefficient, now that's something different. We can have that conversation then. But he's only playing the style that he's asked to be played.
Harold on YouTube says, I guess nobody saw Lamar throwing Hollywood Brown open. He is coming off a year where it was his worst situation around him as far as the weapons in the Ravens offense. Mark Andrews and everybody else, Devin Duvernay, right?
Who's he throwing to?
Crochet.
Right.
Well, even look,
48-year-old Deshaun Jackson.
And I will defend him a little bit. The injuries kind of caught up to him because if you look at the Miami game, it was week 3 of the NFL season. That was the most points the Ravens scored all year. He hit Rashad Bateman for a 70-yard touchdown. He hit Mark Andrews for a 35-yard touchdown. He ran for a 75-yard touchdown. That was the peak of their offense. And then after that, injuries dismantled them, and they had pieces like Devin Duvernay fall off and little accent guys. But he has always made more with less. And that's kind of my trademark for what a good quarterback is.
Bottom line, the guy has given you a chance to win every time he steps on the field.
And then it comes down to, for everyone, like including ourselves that has opinion, it just comes down to personal preference and what you really want to give up. And then also even you could talk about Lamar Jackson. You could talk about the draft when it comes to these quarterbacks that just, Anthony Richardson. He had phenomenal numbers at the combine. But am I drafting him in the first round? No, I'm not.
Somebody is, KB.
Yeah, they are. But that's why I say it's a personal preference. Just like Malik, they say Malik is, he's a project. You're going to have to work with him. All right. Anthony Richardson, the same thing. He's just more athletic. He runs a 4.4 and has all the attributes. But when that stuff starts moving out there, it becomes real. So, I'm not saying he's not going to be able to get it done, but I feel like I could get that and work with him in the second, third round. But that's just how it's the fascination with, the pretty girl with the, whatever your attributes are that you like in women.
615-737 or quarterbacks. Yeah. 615-737-1045. I want to hone in on that a little bit. What you brought up about Anthony Richardson and a lot of the stuff that's been circulating about the Titans over the course of the last few days. We'll get Keith Bulluck's thoughts on that with you until 1 o'clock on 1045 The Zone.
What's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. Yesterday was the deadline to place the franchise tag on players, and 6 players got hit with the franchise tag. The Commanders tagged Deron Payne. The Jaguars tagged Evan Ingram. The Raiders tagged Josh Jacobs. The Cowboys tagged Tony Pollard. And the Giants tagged Saquon Barkley. Lamar, with the Ravens, got hit with the non-exclusive tag, which means Lamar Jackson can go to other teams and negotiate a contract. If he agrees, the Ravens get a chance to match. If they decline to match, they will be awarded 2 first-round picks as compensation. Lamar gets paid $32 million underneath that tag. And speaking of Saquon, he got tagged close to the buzzer yesterday, allowing them the reason he was able to be tagged was because they finished a deal with Daniel Jones, a 4-year, $160 million, $82 million guaranteed, which allowed them to place the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley at the buzzer. Speaking of the buzzer, SEC Network, you got SEC basketball tournament beginning today. Ole Miss and South Carolina at 6 p.m. and LSU and Georgia following that. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour with Keith Bulluck hanging out with us in studio on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica with you. Robert Walsh, our producer. Buck off today and through the rest of the week. Rhett Bryan will join us as we broadcast live from Bridgestone Arena in the SEC tournament Thursday and Friday. You know, KB, all this talk about Lamar Jackson and the moving parts, teams that say they're out, teams that we think could be a good fit. And it's been a very measured day from Titans fans because we've been taking calls since 10 a.m. and not once, KB, have we heard the Titans need to angle for Lamar Jackson.
Smart.
Think about what the things that they would have to forego in this. I'm not even going to call it a rebuild, call it a renovation in this remodel. The pieces that they would have to forego in order to bring in Lamar Jackson. You forego the opportunity to find your left tackle at the 11th pick if that's what you want to do. You forego, obviously, your first-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. So much cap space that you still don't have freed up. It'd be really hard to find ways to build around Lamar Jackson for 2023 if you were to make that move.
Yeah, I mean, all the money will go into Lamar Jackson. You already know what's on the shelf here in Tennessee right now. That's why you hear, it was floated out there, true or not true. It's probably, where there's smoke, there's fire about the Derrick Henry being, portrayed, shopped, whatever, however it goes. You call it retooling, call it remodeling. I'm going with revamping. It's something, So maybe they're revamping because I feel they have the Titans we're speaking about have a good enough nucleus that they could do some things. If they get the right pieces in here and based upon what I've been hearing, on the various shows here on 104.5, how, Rand Carthon is speaking about, and Mike Vrabel, they're both speaking about speed and, multifaceted players. And when you think about it, they don't have that on this roster right now. So obviously they're going to go out and get it. And what makes sense about Derrick Henry is that you shop it to see what you can get. You know what I mean? You might not be able to get anything. So it's like, okay, cool. But I know it's business, man. And being a business owner, I know that if I have something of value right now, I'm going to see what I can get. What that doesn't mean I'm going to get rid of it. But, look, I know if I'm short on something and I need something else, how much can I get for this Rolex? You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those situations that, as a business owner and you're dealing with commodities, you're trying to see what you can get for something that you feel is very, very valuable to your team. It might not be as valuable to the other 32 players that are or 31 players that are involved, but hey, I know that when this guy that we have plays against you guys, he does fairly well. So, you like what we got? Hey, so it's one of those things.
Nathan on YouTube says, where you can hang out with us, by the way, 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Nathan says, we need an offensive line to protect a megastar quarterback. No way we need to go after Jackson right now. And I feel like that's been the reaction for the most part when it comes to Lamar Jackson and potential landing spots. It's funny seeing national reporters throw Tennessee in the mix there as, hey, this could work, where then here in town it's just, no, you'd really have to punt some really important things that need to happen this offseason to off-seasons later down the road.
Yeah, and I also think, man, look, Tannehill is a very capable quarterback. So I think it's very important that, like you're talking about, surrounding Lamar Jackson with weapons. When we're speaking about the Titans, I think it's very important to, obviously be able to protect Ryan Tannehill and give him some weapons where he's not having games where he's passing 14 of 19 for 117 yards or 17 of 24 for 189 yards. Because that's what you're seeing. I'm not knocking, but that's what you're seeing. And, I think, but we've also seen Ryan Tannehill pass, 24 for 37 for 300 and something yards. So he's capable either way. It just comes down to putting the weapons around him and, letting those weapons do what they do, baby. Let them go to work. If Traylon Burks is a first-round wide receiver, throw the ball to him deep. Let him get out there in space. Do some things. You got to get some other things to complement that. I like getting a running back in. If you keep Derrick Henry, get another running back. Okay. You got Deshaun Haskins. Let's create some competition because now you got these older players, these players that have been great for you. You got Kevin Byard. You got, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. You got some good pieces that still are formidable Titans and understand what it's like to be pros. You need to get some guys off other teams that are in year 4 or 5 that help some teams win and know what it's like to be a pro, to kind of help these younger guys develop into pros and, start building your team for the future while you have, these great players within your building. And I don't say rebuild. I like to say revamp because I feel like the players that they have here can still play. But it's like when, I believe, I don't remember what year, 05, 06, but when I was playing and they brought in, David Thornton, Chris Hope, Kevin Mawai, and a couple years before that, they brought in Vanden Bosch. You know what I'm saying? So you need those type of players because I couldn't do it by myself, and whoever else was here at the time, we needed help. And you need those players that come with a different mindset, that come from a different team, that have been listening to a different philosophy since they were a rookie. Now they're in year 3, year 4. They've done something in the league to help the team that they were on win, and they're ready to be a pillar and a leader on on another team and win like that. Because I would say that definitely Chris Hope, Kyle Vanden Bosch, David Thornton, most especially Kevin Mawai, who's a Hall of Famer, brought something to the table. Whereas I'd been here, I immediately gained a respect for them. Whereas I've had players that are supposed to be something come in here and they're just guys.
What do you make of, as a former player, this Lions season of one day you see Mike Silver saying the Titans are shopping Derrick Henry, and then literally the next day it's a report from Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports saying, no, they're not. How do you process all of that as a player as far as what to believe, what not to believe, or maybe just a blanket, not ignorance of all of that stuff, but obviously taking everything with a massive grain of salt?
Yeah, I mean, it's draft time, so it's interesting. You're going to see things about players, and you'll hear like a Mel Kiper or Adam McShay or whoever these draft analysts are talk about certain players more than others, or just what you got to do your research. They might have the same agent as the player they're speaking about. Not to take anything away from the player, but if
the reporters, you're saying.
Yeah, the reporter may have the same exact agent representing them to get reporting jobs and gigs that, the player that's in the draft is being represented by, because these agents represent coaches, they represent reporters, and as well, I should say media personalities, and as well as football, baseball, all types of players. So it only makes sense. I don't put too much into it, because at the end of the day, when each agent is trying to get their player drafted as high as they can. So you'll see all these different stories floating out, and each team is trying to position themselves to be in the best position to get the player that they want. Because you got to think, all these teams want probably a lot of the same players. So I think it's a jockeying of position now. Do we trade up or do we trade back? Do we trade this player? Do we trade that player? Right now, since no one can really speak to particular players and agents and so on and so forth, you just throw stuff out there. You just throw it up and you see what happens. And then, next week, in the next couple of weeks, the real negotiations for, top free agents will happen.
There's one massive domino in the quarterback carousel that could have an impact on the Titans and have nothing to do with Lamar Jackson. We'll tell you what that is coming up next. Keith Bulluck, Lucas Panzica, Robert Walsh with you on 104.5 The Zone. All the talk about Lamar Jackson, and there's one quarterback domino that you would think would be the next to fall, although he's been really good about dragging things out when he says he doesn't want to drag things out. That could have a much heavier impact on the Titans situation, and that's obviously Aaron Rodgers. Keith Bulluck with us, Lucas Panzica with you until 1 o'clock on 104.5 The Zone. Buck Reising out for the rest of the week. So Aaron Rodgers, in his home state of California, right about now, he finished up his darkness retreat the other week, and the New York Jets flew out to talk to him just yesterday. I believe, in fact, the Jets have left the West Coast after those conversations. Well, before we talk about it, let's hear from Ian Rappaport on what we know about those conversations between the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers.
Let's start with Aaron Rodgers, who is in California right now with the New York Jets contingent. It is owner Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas, the general manager, and Robert Saleh and a couple other coaches meeting with Aaron Rodgers, the long-awaited meeting. They got permission to speak with Rodgers earlier in the week, flew out to California yesterday to go, I believe, have dinner with Aaron Rodgers somewhere near his Malibu home. And it was a recruiting pitch from the New York Jets. Obviously, he has been their top target. They've been very clear about that. Derek Carr, who was also one of their targets, knew that as well. It really was pretty clear that Aaron Rodgers was their guy. So now Rodgers' information gathering needs to come to some sort of decision. Is he going to retire, which my understanding is still on the table, give away $60 million, walk away from $60 million, or is he going to go to a team like the Jets or potentially even return to the Packers? If he does end up going to the Jets, he would tell the Packers, make this deal, and they would then facilitate that. Meanwhile,
so is he going to retire? To me, KB, is the only answer in all of this that we have a definitive answer to. I can't see that. I can't see him leaving the $58 million on the table, hanging it up, saying, I'm done playing football. To me, he's either a Packer or a Jet next season, and I think he's probably a Jet.
You know what this is like, man? You know, I grew up in the 80s, 90s. Like, I was in high school in, like, the 90s. That's, like, when you start, like, and back then there was no, like, DMs and texting. You had to really, like, build up the courage to go ask the girl out. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they flew to California. Right. They flew to California to ask Aaron Rodgers to go to homecoming or prom with them. And he's like, I'll get back to you. Like, are you kidding me?
And they've been building up all that courage, too.
Yeah.
It's been such a build-up. They hire Nathaniel Hackett. Woody Johnson's out there saying, we are bringing in a veteran quarterback, and everybody's rolling their eyes.
It's like, I got the limo. I got the limo. My brother's 21, so he's going to get the beers for us.
All the hits have been dropped.
Everything is ready to go. Now she's waiting to see if she gets a better offer. That's what Aaron Rodgers is doing right now. The Jets need it. I'm the best offer, damn it. And I like the Jets for Aaron Rodgers if he's going to go anywhere, because I like the way the Jets played last year with the guy that came in. I'm sorry, the guy that came in.
Mike White.
Mike White.
Yeah.
Mike White did his thing. And the Jets have young talent that is hungry. Now, the thing is with Aaron Rodgers is his attitude sucks. Like, he's not much of a leader until the season starts. So if he's going into the locker room or organization like the Jets that have, like, young guys and stuff like that, he can't go in breaking their confidence when he does his first interview like he did, with the Packers this past season, where I don't know how much of the confidence he broke of his players, but, those young guys weren't making plays earlier in the year, and A-Rod definitely wasn't, backing them up or being encouraging. So I don't know how that dynamic works in New York, in the New York media, where they'll probably, rip him for more things than he gets ripped for, that people are unhappy with about him in Green Bay. But I just like the talent that the Jets have and the way that they played and the way they ended last year. And with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, if he's coming correct, they can make some noise.
Well, Jets owner Woody Johnson has been very vocal about needing to bring in a proven veteran quarterback to come in and take over the reins of this offense.
They should have went and got Geno.
Give him that 3 years, 105 that the Seahawks are giving him, and still probably going to take a quarterback in the top 10. That might be a nice little situation that Seattle's got playing out up there with the draft coming up. But it is amazing. We were talking about how the situations, the quarterback situation of the Packers has just mirrored itself over the course of decades at this point, with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre, and now Jordan Love sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. It just feels like destiny, KB, that Aaron Rodgers at 39, which is about how old Brett Favre was when he went to the Jets, goes to the New York Jets, and then Jordan Love takes over, and that's just the order of things. And then in a few years, the Packers will draft another quarterback. He'll sit behind Jordan Love for a couple of years. But it does feel like all the signs have pointed to Aaron Rodgers being a New York Jet. But if he isn't, and the only way that I see this relating back to the Titans is if for whatever reason Aaron Rodgers, who is probably a bit of a wild card in all of this, the logic would say he'll probably be in New York next year. But if he is not, do the Jets immediately turn to Ryan Tannehill? Because then you start to get in a little bit of desperation mode. You have been out there saying you were going to bring in a veteran quarterback. You cannot run it back. I know Mike White did some good things, KB.
Yeah,
no. You
I'm not saying going back with him.
You can't run it back with Zach Wilson and Mike White next year.
No way.
You just can't.
And that's what drives me crazy about this draft right now and all this quarterback talk. Like, Zach Wilson is still out there. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not going to look it up, but if people can use their mind and think about it, how many quarterbacks have been drafted in the first round, have not panned out? You could throw Darnold out there. You could just, off the top of your head, you could probably rattle off like 5. So the infatuation and the must of having to draft a quarterback in the first round. I know I'm dating myself, but I came out in 2000. There were no first-round quarterbacks at all, and it was fine. Tom Brady he just retired. He's the GOAT of my draft class, and he was drafted in the 7th round. He's the Brock Purdy of our draft class, you know what I'm saying? So, it's very hard I feel like all these quarterbacks need to be developed as the Titans saw. You saw it last year also with Pickett up in Pittsburgh. Obviously, the more these guys play, the more the better they get. But there ain't too many quarterbacks coming in and just, starting and making your team turn around instantaneously.
James on YouTube says the Jets can't run it back, but the Titans can. LOL. It's a different situation.
Yeah, I mean,
entirely.
Look, let's talk about the Titans situation. Ryan Tannehill, he's a proven quarterback, proven that he could go out and lead a team to the playoffs. Obviously, unfortunately for him, the last time, they were in the playoffs, he didn't play well, but you got to think about his body of work since he's been here. He took over for Mariota. They've gone to the playoffs when they weren't expected to. Every year that they had those teams, they have gotten better. Last year, obviously, injuries and all those different things kept them from going back and defending, going back to the playoffs and getting another shot at it. But all signs indicated going into the season before that's what the Titans were going to do. Now let's get some weapons around him. Let's revamp this offensive line and, give it another shot. But look, people were talking about Derek Carr. I said something on Twitter yesterday about, Derek Carr getting all this hype.
You did not like that deal.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm happy for him. Go do what you got to do. Just do it quietly, because Derek Carr is not all that. Because it's one of those things at this point of their career, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, they're the same person. Ryan Tannehill being better in my eyes just because he's proven that he can take a team to the playoffs and win in the playoffs. You got to look, Derek Carr, he needs this, he needs that. Now we hear the whole story last year about him getting his best friend in college roommate, and we had to see Devontae Adams. All right, you had the number 1 running back in the league and one of the best wide receivers and one of the best tight ends in Waller. Why are we not getting it done? So that's where it's not even frustration. It's just like that. That's where I'm from. Like, why are we still talking about this guy? Great. He will win some games. He can get you there. But, then they should talk about Ryan Tannehill the same way then. I feel like it's the same person.
So it does feel like the Aaron Rodgers situation would have the most to do with the Titans simply because of where the Jets would have to start turning if that does not work out. And you can't ignore the Todd Downing connection, but it's just the fact of they have already said they're going to bring in a veteran quarterback. And it's hard to look around at other options that could come in and fit that system outside of Ryan Tannehill.
Gardner Minshew, he's out there in Philly. I don't know what is a veteran at this point, but it's like, there's not too many top tier, and I know they're not going to get top tier, so you got to get somebody that can manage the game for you, that can win some games, manage the games, has a mid to high quarterback IQ, and that can make some plays. So my question to you is, how do the Jets get Ryan Tannehill from the Titans? Like, was it in a trade situation or?
You would have to trade for him. And that would obviously free up a lot of money if the Jets were to inherit that contract. And you'd get more for Ryan Tannehill than you would Derrick Henry, while we're talking about reports of Derrick Henry being shopped.
So who are we going to get at quarterback? Jimmy G?
Oh, that's the question, KB. Then things get interesting in the draft, and you think about what kind of capital you could get in a trade. Sending Ryan Tannehill to the Jets, does that mean more flexibility to move up and get a guy in the first round while still being able to address your needs at tackle, at pass rusher now with Bud Dupree expected to be released, at wide receiver?
But see, the whole thing with pass rush, you got Harold Landry coming back. Harold Landry didn't play at all last year. So I feel like that replaces Bud. Then you had some guys that played like last year. Rashad Weaver, he's an outside guy, isn't he? That got some playing time. So I'm thinking like that's what we need to make happen. And then maybe find someone in the draft or someone we have on our roster or on the practice squad, and then draft a young guy. But like the pass rush situation, I'm not too worried about that. You got to figure out what you're going to do with David Long Jr. or your linebacker situation, because Monty Rice, although he did take steps, you lose speed without David Long Jr. out there.
And you've already cut Zach Cunningham.
Yeah.
So you're right. That's not one of the most dire needs on this team. The needs they have at the top of the list are very serious on the offensive line. And you could argue at wide receiver with Treylon Burks coming back, and then you got to figure out what you can bring in around that. But then it's sort of those secondary and tertiary needs that are going to be addressed in one way or the other. And it's a deep pass rushing class in the NFL draft coming up. A lot of moving parts here that will only speed up the carousel if Aaron Rodgers turns down the New York Jets. And in that case, I don't know what he would do. We have gone all this way, though, without mentioning the other side of the New York market, which you played in for the final year of your career, and the deal the New York Giants just gave to quarterback Daniel Jones. What was your reaction to that when you see a big 4-year deal for Daniel Jones worth $160 million, $35 million more in incentives, $94 million virtually guaranteed at signing?
I'm always for players getting their money, so good for Daniel Jones. It was one of those situations, and this is clear as day what to add to what we're talking about. Who else is out there? The Giants realized, okay, Daniel Jones didn't bet on himself, but he had to show up last year. He showed up. He showed up in a big way. Then he got to the point where he tried to force their hand, played hardball. So even with an agent, Daniel Jones's camp was playing hardball. Look, he wanted what he wanted. The Giants were like, however they worked it out, this is what we'll give you. It's a negotiation. You start high and you get to, a point that you're both happy with. And, I thought immediately good for him based on everything I just said, as well as it sucks for Saquon. Because Saquon was one of those guys, he's injury prone, he hasn't done this, that, and the other. And starting game one here at the stadium across the river, he was did his thing all year. And now he's no guarantee. $10 million. Look, $10 million is a lot.
Got the tag.
But that's not guaranteed money. So you'll get $10 million guaranteed this year. But Daniel Jones is getting 90, and then I can't help but think that, like, dang, Geno got paid, Daniel Jones got paid, Lamar still can't get paid. They'll figure it out, though.
But how do you think that's being received in New York, the Daniel Jones situation?
I don't know the details of the contract, but just, I got a bunch of New York Twitter.
Yeah.
So it seems like everybody's happy with it. They are happy with it because Daniel Jones did his thing last year. That's how New York fans and New York goes. If Daniel Jones was trash last year and they didn't make the playoffs, they're confident in Dabo, Daniel Jones. They're confident that they can put more weapons around Daniel Jones. They figured that Daniel Jones showed enough just by leading the team to the playoffs and winning some big games last year. And I honestly feel he did. I can't argue against or for what he got paid. But yeah, as far as going out there and answering the bell and answering the demands of the NFL at the quarterback position, I think he did a great job.
AJ on YouTube says, did Jones ever unfollow the Giants? I guess you can get a deal without unfollowing teams on social media.
Yeah, if they're talking to you.
Jason from Nashville wants to chime in. 615-737-1045 to join the conversation. What's up, Jason?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, man. There was a couple of things when y'all was asking about the dumbest thing in sports. I might be a little bit behind on that. But my original thought was the Michael Irvin situation. And the fact that you originally came out and admitted that you were intoxicated, you had no idea what you said to that lady, and now you're wanting to countersue and to try to somehow weasel out of it, it's almost like you'd be better off just paying this lady off, because I feel like that's what it's going to come down to in the end. They got you on video, and now you're wanting to see the footage. They've already showed you the footage, according to you and your lawyer. So I don't know what he's planning on doing, dragging that out. And then when you tell somebody you was already intoxicated and you don't know what you said, that's almost like a admit of guilt. That reminds me of OJ saying, if I would have done it, I would have done it this way. So it's just like some things just don't click with me. But the callers that called in, and I'll make this short, and said that, the quarterback for Baltimore can't throw to a spot. I don't think that's fair saying that, because we don't know that that's true. I think that Baltimore is playing to his strength. So I don't understand the whole, negative side of him trying to get his money. You gotta
Thanks for the call, Jason.
Speaking of dumbest thing in sports, I saw this thing a little bit ago where a Giants fan renounced his fandom of the Giants due to the Daniel Jones signing, and he is going to be a Jets fan now. And it reminds me of what we saw a lot of last week with even Ravens fans with Lamar. If we don't have Lamar, I'm not going to be a Ravens fan. Last week for the Titans.
Yeah.
If we trade Derrick Henry, I'm not going to be a Titans fan. You were never a fan to begin with. You were a fan of what was happening, but you were never a fan of that team. And I wonder where that line is for some fandoms, whether, like, if they sign Daniel Jones, you're going to stop being a fan of the Giants? Like, did you ever really like them, dude? Like, come on, man.
I think it's less so that they never liked him, and more so that that's just a complete lie, and that they'll be watching the game.
And they don't probably understand the whole dynamic of it. But I tell you what, being a New Yorker, I was not a Jets fan or a Giants fan, but I definitely wasn't a Jets fan, just because all my friends that were Jets fans, they would come to like school in elementary school like always sad because the Jets were losing all the time. And this is like in the 80s when the Giants were winning Super Bowls. Like, I like Joe Montana. Exactly. So for you to say that, like, you're a loser, like, you're not really a Giant, you just whatever. That's funny.
KB, your Syracuse Orange are trailing here.
Bro, I told you I didn't care that my back is to the screen because I have no expectations.
So is that intentional for you? I'm starting to think that was intentional for you to sit in Slay spot so you didn't have to watch
Syracuse. It wasn't intentional, but through my computer screen, I could kind of see the score. They started off pretty good. They were up, I think, 27-22, and then now they're down 10. But, Syracuse basketball isn't the same. Syracuse football isn't. Yeah, Syracuse. We won the soccer national championship.
There you go. There you go. I can get on board with that. We'll wrap up this quarterback conversation, do the polls, and finish up as Keith Bulluck hangs out with us until 1 o'clock on 104.5 The Zone. Wrapping up with Keith Bulluck here on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica with you, Robert Walsh as well until 1 o'clock. Blaine and Mickey will be coming up next. We were talking, KB, about Anthony Richardson. You brought him up earlier in the record-breaking workouts for a quarterback and how that projects as an NFL starter. So you were telling me your combine was pretty good as far as the numbers and the measurements and everything played out, but you didn't feel like it had any impact on rising or falling when it came to your draft stock.
Nah, my whole goal was to be a first-round draft pick, and we had like LeVar Arrington, Brian Urlacher, Julian Peterson, John Abraham, myself. We had a stacked linebacker class, and I'm thinking if I run if I jump this, bench this, boom, my stock will go up. And here's a funny story is at my pro day, I did a combine in my pro day. So my agent was like, yo, if you run a 4.4, I just had 4.4 on my mind. So my pro day, I stripped down to now they do it all the time. But it was my Calvin Klein tights, my boots. I could have got a deal then if I was thinking. But anyway, and I ran, and I remember my being at Syracuse, Penn State. So we had a bunch of scouts there, to see. But then they were going to Penn State next because Arrington worked out the next day. So in my mind, they're just here because they're on their way to Penn State. So I ran my time, and my strength coach was like, 4.44, and I'm like, hell yeah. And I yell, I'm like, now you can take your ass to Penn State. To all the scouts. That didn't go over too well. My agent was like, hey, why'd you do that? And I was like, I don't know. I was just in the moment.
Still a first-round pick.
It didn't work. It did help or hurt, but that was just my experience. Pretty funny.
So when you see people fawning over Anthony Richardson numbers, we were talking during the break, you like Hendon Hooker as a quarterback in the NFL better than you like Anthony Richardson, except Richardson is unquestionably going to be a first-round pick at this point, especially after that workout. And Hooker, you're talking about second, third round. And that's Hooker rising up the charts. And that probably would have been the discussion even before the ACL.
Hey, man, I look at it like this. Like I say, you're going to, the scouts, when it comes to these quarterbacks, you can gawk over them. They gawk over like a pretty girl for whatever the attributes you like. But at the same time, you got to find a real one, you take your time. It might not be the first round draft pick. You know what I'm saying? You might not see the beauty in it until you really take a look. It's like, oh, it's way better than that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, obviously Hendon Hooker being injured, it takes a little of the, I guess, flair or glare of drafting him away because you have to wait. But at the same time, I think that he showed at UT that he is a gamer. He showed that no moment was too big for him in any of the games. So I think he's a guy that you get on your roster to learn your system. If you can get him in the second, third, if he's still there. He's definitely a great guy to have on your roster to kind of learn your system, and then you let him loose, that next year.
Dirty Bird in Murfreesboro wants to chime in on what we were talking about in the last segment on bandwagon fans. What's up, Dirty Bird?
What's up, fellas? So I got two comments. One, when is bandwagoning not been able to be shamed? Like these guys that are talking about, oh, well, if Derrick Henry leaves. Look, I'm a Falcons fan, fellas. We lost Julio. We lost Ryan. We had Mariota 2.0. I don't care if we go 0-17. That is my blood team. So all these guys that are wanting to jump ship just because of one person, y'all should feel ashamed. Now, the second thing, if you guys don't stop saying Anthony Richardson is going to be an NFL quarterback, yes, he had a great combine. Did y'all watch him in Florida? He is not going to. I just think he kind of reminds me of what was the guy from Oakland a long while back? He was like a Tim Couch, Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, from
that's
LSU.
who he reminds me of.
I wish him the best, but I'm
Thanks for the call, Dirty Bird.
I wish it's hard, man. To play quarterback in the NFL is very hard, and to only have one year as a starter in college, and he's only 20 years old.
Can't even buy a drink yet.
What type of football IQ does he have? Like, really, like if you line up in cover 2 and you roll your safeties down, that stuff looks different when it's moving. And if he's a said hut, 1-read guy, 2-read guy, that's picks all day because we jumping that.
He's got a 10-foot broad jump, though.
Hey, I heard you say, he could jump to the 4-yard line, like he jumped 4 yards.
2nd and 7, 2nd and 6.
Hey, they better put that play in.
Live to fight another day. Do some polls.
The Buck Reising Show's almost done. Yeah. We have come to this portion of the program where we update the poll. Yeah.
Settle down, Beavis.
Go ahead, update them, Buck. Buck.
We're gonna score.
Hey, Buck.
Buck doesn't update the polls, dummy. You're stupid.
Yeah. Time for a poll update. Hey, how's it going, man?
You said poll.
Yeah. Lucas Panzica. Yeah, are you threatening me? I am the great Cornpolio.
Hey, Lucas, can you update the poll? Lucas, give us the deets, dog.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. Go ahead, Robert.
What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Tyler chimes in with John Morant jeopardizing his career. Gummy Gamer says anybody who remotely thinks it's okay to trade El Tractorcito.
By Derrick Henry.
Makes sense. It makes sense. We were talking about it, but conflicting reports. Who knows what's going to happen? It is the season of lies. Who will find their landing spot first? 69.9. Very nice. Aaron Rodgers, the crowd thinks that he will find his landing spot first. Lamar Jackson with 30%.
What do you think, KB? Lamar or Aaron Rodgers ends up with his new team first?
Aaron Rodgers.
Or old team?
I think knows? Aaron Rodgers. It seems like doesn't seem like Lamar Jackson is a priority from the outside looking in. They're just going to let that marinate for a little bit.
Where does Lamar land? 57%. Overwhelming result in this 4-option poll. Baltimore is where Lamar will land.
I'm with that.
Who wins the SEC tournament? 27% say Bama, 13% say Texas A&M, 11% say Kentucky, 47% say the Field.
The Field?
The John Daly's of the world.
So maybe Tennessee, maybe Vanderbilt makes a run, maybe Missouri stays consistent. I think it's going to be a really fun SEC tournament at Bridgestone Arena this week. We'll be there broadcasting live from it for the next 2 days. Keith Bulluck, this was fun, man.
Yeah, it was great. Appreciate you having me.
Flew by, always does when Mr. Monday Night is in the house. I'm Lucas Panzica for Robert Walsh. Appreciate KB for hanging out. We will talk to you tomorrow, and Blaine and Mickey are up next.